The sky over Dahan Hills had darkened by late afternoon, clouds rolling in like storm giants ready to swallow the city. The wind howled through the streets, rattling windows and bending the palm trees with every gust. Jennifer and Nala had been returning from the playground when the first heavy raindrops fell, fat and cold against their umbrellas. Jennifer's heels clicked anxiously on the cobblestone paths as she hurried to her villa. She could see the storm building. The estate's warning lights flickered with the increasing gusts, electricity threatening to fail at any moment. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. A branch from a massive oak tree nearby had snapped and crashed dangerously close to the pathway. Jennifer froze, Nala clutching her hand. And then a familiar voice called out, calm, steady, commanding. "Jennifer, over here." She squinted through the rain. There he was, Jean Huan. Not arrogant, not predatory, not even a hint of the man who had once been obsessed with lust. Just calm, protective, present. Before she could protest, he strode through the storm, lifting an umbrella over both of them, shielding them from the downpour. "Come with me," he said. "My penthouse is safer than here." Jennifer's instincts screamed at her. "No, don't go." But the growing wind and rain, the snapping branches, and the distant sirens of the estate's security made the decision for her. She nodded once, reluctantly, and followed him. The penthouse was a sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows gave a panoramic view of the storm, while the spacious interior was warm, calm, and softly lit. Candles flickered across the living area, their golden light reflecting on polished marble floors. The scent of fresh flowers and vanilla candles filled the room. Jennifer closed the door behind them, shivering slightly. Nala immediately ran to a corner, fascinated by the luxurious space. Jean Huan, sensing her tension, smiled softly. "She likes it here," he said, kneeling. "To Nala's level. Safe. Warm." Jennifer didn't respond. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her chest. Confusion, irritation, and something else, something dangerously magnetic. "You don't need to explain anything," she finally said, trying to keep her voice steady. "She's fine. You're fine." He chuckled softly, a sound that was rare and unguarded. "I'll take that as progress." The rain beat harder against the windows. Lightning illuminated the skyline intermittently, followed by the deep rumble of thunder. The estate had lost electricity, a complete blackout. Candles became their only light. Shadows danced across the walls, flickering over Jean Huan's strong profile, the tattoos on his arms, and the intensity in his eyes. Jennifer tried to focus on Nala, reading her a story, but she couldn't ignore him. He moved quietly around the penthouse, making sure everything was safe, adjusting candles, checking that the little girl had a blanket, a warm drink, anything she might need. It was not the Jean Huan she had feared, not the man whose mere presence made her pulse spike in terror and desire. This Jean Huan was calm, careful, patient, and almost unbearably magnetic. At one point, he crouched next to her on the couch, not touching, just close enough that the heat from his body was noticeable. "You okay?" he asked softly. Jennifer nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, thanks." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unspoken history, shared glances, and the unrelenting tension between them. Then the storm's power shifted the room. A candle flickered too close to the edge of the mantel, smoke curling upward. Jean Huan's hand moved instinctively, steadying it, fingers brushing her arm lightly in the process. Jennifer stiffened, her chest tightened. I don't," she started, but he cut her off with a low whisper. "Relax. Nothing will happen unless you want it to. I promise." The words were soft, honest, but the intimacy of the moment, the storm raging outside, the flickering candlelight on his face, and the warmth of his presence, all of it was intoxicating. Jennifer's resolve wavered. Her breath caught when he looked at her, eyes dark, intense, searching. A memory of their past flickered in her mind. Stolen kisses, whispered promises, moments when the world had felt small and private. And now it was almost unbearable. A sudden clap of thunder made her jump. He instinctively moved closer to steady her, and for a heartbeat, their faces were inches apart. His hand brushed hers. A spark, a jolt, a dangerous reminder of what had been and what could be. Jennifer pulled back slightly. "No," she said softly, her heart racing. Don't do this. Not here. Not now." He smiled faintly, almost regretfully. "I'm not forcing anything. Just feeling alive with you here. That's all." But the tension between them was undeniable. The storm outside mirrored the storm of desire inside the room. Candlelight reflected in her eyes, making him pause, almost lose himself in the intensity. He noticed something he hadn't seen before. A faint scar on her wrist from when Nala had accidentally scratched her during play. Small, human, delicate. And it struck him, seeing these imperfections, that life had been hard, but she had endured, protected, survived. And that made her all the more irresistible. Hours passed. The storm didn't relent. The electricity flickered on briefly and went out again. Jennifer poured tea for herself and Nala, trying to distract from the tension that seemed to thicken with each passing minute. Jean Juan sat across from them, calm, but every now and then his gaze flicked toward her. Soft, intense, patient. He didn't speak of love or obsession. He didn't brag. He just existed there in her space, showing that he could be trusted, that he could care, that he could protect. And Jennifer, for the first time since the incident at the playground, allowed herself to notice him. Not the man she feared, not the Mafia lord she despised, but the man who had once loved her and, somehow, still did. A flash of lightning illuminated the room fully. Her eyes fell on him. Long hair tied back, tattoos hidden under the long sleeves, eyes dark and piercing. And in that moment, she almost kissed him. But she didn't. She pulled back, heart pounding, body trembling, mind screaming. "No," she whispered. I can't. Not again." He nodded, understanding. No words, no excuses. Just acknowledgement, respect, and that intense, silent hunger that didn't need consent to exist, only patience. Later, when Nala had gone to sleep on the couch, Jennifer noticed something else. A small glimpse of his back as he moved to adjust a blanket. Scars. Marks from battles, from survival, from the life he had endured to become who he was today. Proof that the man before her had changed. Proof that this wasn't the reckless, arrogant boy from the beach. Proof that he had lived, fought, and survived. And that he had come for her, not for lust, but for something deeper. And that realization shook her more than any kiss could have. The storm continued through the night. Rain battered the windows. Lightning flashed. Candles flickered in the darkness. And in the silence that followed, Jennifer realized something terrifying. She was no longer afraid of him. Not completely. Not yet. But she was captivated. And she knew that this night, this storm, this closeness, was only the beginning. Something dangerous, magnetic, and inevitable was coming. And for the first time in years, Jennifer didn't want to run. The morning after the hurricane, the city was drenched in sunlight, the streets glistening with puddles reflecting the chaos of the night before. The storm had passed, but its traces lingered, branches broken, leaves scattered, and the faint scent of wet earth in the air. Jennifer sat on her balcony with Nala playing quietly on the floor, absorbed in her dolls. She thought she had left the storm behind, both outside and within. She was wrong, because Jean Juan hadn't left. Not really. He arrived at her villa mid-morning, unannounced as always. But today there was a difference. No gifts, no grand gestures, no intrusion, just him, calm, controlled, and yet undeniably magnetic. Jennifer noticed immediately. The way he moved, even casually, carried the weight of his presence. The kind of presence that made a room feel smaller, hotter, electric. "Good morning," he said, voice low, almost husky from the night storm and the lack of sleep. "Morning," Jennifer replied curtly, but her heart betrayed her. It raced. Her pulse jumped. She didn't want to admit it, but she had missed this, the tension, the danger, the unspoken pull. They sat in the living room. Nala was occupied, humming softly to herself. Jennifer tried to focus on work, her laptop open, fingers typing mechanically. but she couldn't ignore him. Not the way he sat across from her. Eyes dark, calculating, patient. "Jennifer," he said suddenly, leaning forward slightly. "I need to be honest. I can't keep pretending I'm calm, that I'm distant. I've tried. But being near you, watching you, it's unbearable." Jennifer stiffened. "Jinhuan, don't." But he didn't stop. He rose slowly, each movement deliberate, controlled, yet charged with intention. "I know you don't want a man in your life. I know you've built this world perfect, calm, independent. And I respect that. But I can't pretend. I won't pretend anymore." Jennifer swallowed hard. You're going to make this complicated. You always do." He smiled faintly, almost regretfully. "Then let's make it simple. No love, no promises, just you and me. When we want each other." Her breath caught. Her body reacted before her mind could intervene. The tension in the room thickened, a magnetic pull she couldn't fight. The first moment their fingers brushed was electric. Her hand had accidentally grazed his as she reached for her coffee. A spark shot through her chest. Her pulse raced. She pulled back slightly, trembling, but he didn't retreat. He just let the contact linger, just enough to make her aware of it, just enough to make her ache. "You don't have to resist," he whispered, low and intoxicating. "Not here. Not now." Jennifer's breath hitched. She wanted to argue, to push him away, to maintain control. But her body betrayed her. Her skin tingled under his gaze, her lips suddenly dry, her thoughts scattered. And then he moved closer, slowly, deliberately, closing the distance between them, every movement controlled, measured, yet full of raw desire. She couldn't stop herself from looking at him. Long hair tied back, tattoos hidden under his sleeves, the intensity in his eyes burning into her soul. "I'm not asking for a heart," he whispered. "Just this moment. Let me prove that I can be what you need for now." Her knees weakened. Her resolve crumbled. The first kiss was inevitable. He leaned down, capturing her lips with his in a slow, measured way, as if testing her boundaries, reading her response. Jennifer froze for a heartbeat, then melted. The kiss deepened, fierce but tender, raw and emotional, carrying all the years of longing, anger, desire, and unspoken feelings between them. Her hands found their way to his chest, feeling the solid muscles, the heat beneath the fabric. His hands traced her back, pulling her closer, making her feel wanted in a way she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. It was chaotic. It was controlled. It was perfect. And yet, in the midst of their first real intimacy, Jennifer pulled back, chest heaving. "Stop," she whispered, voice trembling. I can't. Not like this." He didn't release her immediately. He held her face gently, thumb brushing over her cheek. "I know," he said softly. "I just needed to show you that I can be gentle, that I can respect you, that I haven't changed my heart, only the way I handle it." Her body still hummed with the aftermath of the kiss. Her mind was spinning. She was scared. She was excited. She was terrified of letting him in, of letting desire take over. I'm not looking for love," she whispered. "Not again. Not with anyone." He nodded. "Then this is fine. Just this. No promises. No commitments. Only fire when we want it. Nothing more." Her pulse raced again. You make it sound easy." "It's not easy," he admitted. "It's unbearable. I've wanted you for so long, Jennifer. And now, I have a choice. Let it consume me, or let it consume us. That's why I'm asking for this simple, controlled, only when we both want it." Jennifer's resolve wavered. She hated how much her body wanted him, hated how much her heart remembered, hated how safe, protective, and gentle he had become, yet still magnetic, dangerous, intoxicating. And she knew, deep down, that tonight would change something. Forever. The chemistry between them exploded in the coming days. Their encounters were passionate, raw, and emotional. No one knew. Nala never saw, never suspected. Jennifer reminded him every time. Boundaries. She didn't want love. She didn't want promises. She didn't want disruption in her life. And Jean Huan, for all his obsession, respected it for now. But inside, fear gripped him. Fear of losing her again. Fear that this fire, this connection, this intensity could slip away if he wasn't careful. Every touch, every whispered word, every stolen moment carried years of longing, regret, and desire. And for Jennifer, it was intoxicating. She didn't want to admit it. She didn't want to fall. But she couldn't ignore the thrill, the heat, the undeniable chemistry that had always existed, that now burned brighter, stronger, more consuming than ever. Daehan Hills was buzzing with whispers. Rumors always spread faster than wildfire. But this time, the storm was different. Jennifer, beautiful, confident, wealthy, independent, had caught the eye of Jean Huan, the feared Korean mafia lord. A black woman, successful, strong-willed, dating one of the most powerful men in the country. To many, it was scandalous. To others, unthinkable. The first wave hit online. Social media exploded with comments, memes, and cruel opinions. Headlines spun lies. Black woman in luxury estate linked to mafia lord. Is she safe? Mafia's girlfriend or trophy wife? The truth behind Jennifer's life. Daehan Hill's shock. Chable lord seen with foreign woman and child. Jennifer didn't check her phone. She didn't read the messages. She refused to let it seep into her world. But Nala noticed her mother's tension, the flicker of irritation whenever someone called or texted. Jean Huan, of course, noticed too. He had expected Jennifer to be immune to gossip, but this wasn't just gossip. It was venom aimed at her, at Nala, at everything she had built, and it infuriated him. By mid-morning, he appeared at her villa, calm, composed, but with an edge that made the estate security tense. Jennifer saw him before she even opened the door. Jean Huan, she said sharply, trying to keep her composure. You're not helping. I'm here because I need to protect you, he said simply. His eyes darkened with a dangerous intensity. Do you know what people are saying? What they're writing about you? About Nala? Jennifer folded her arms. I don't care. Let them talk. He stepped closer, voice dropping low, dangerous yet controlled. You think it's that simple? They're not just talking. They're threatening. They want to destabilize your life, Jennifer. And I won't let them. Her heart skipped. She hated the tension, the power he carried, but a part of her, the same part that had melted under his gaze during the hurricane, felt comforted, protected, safe. That afternoon, the rumors reached the estate staff. Whispers filled the halls. Security guards exchanged knowing glances. Estate neighbors called, some polite, some rude. Jennifer handled it with grace, ignoring the jabs, brushing off the questions. But Jean Huan's presence was constant, unwavering. He stood at the edge of her life like a silent sentinel, ready to strike anyone who dared cross a line. When a neighbor had the audacity to comment about Jennifer's choices and her position online, Jean Huan's intervention was subtle but terrifying. A warning call, a few words. The neighbor shut down immediately. Jennifer watched, conflicted. She didn't want this life for her daughter. She didn't want danger lurking around every corner. She didn't want the mafia lord protecting her like this. And yet, every time Jean Huan's presence made the threat stop, she felt relieved. That evening, as the sun set over Daehan Hills, Jennifer made her decision. She called Jean Huan to meet her in her living room, Nala playing quietly in her room. Sit down, she said firmly. He obeyed, but his expression was unreadable. Calm, controlled, dangerous. I've been thinking, she began, voice steady but tinged with emotion, about everything, the public, the whispers, the threats, the chaos. He nodded slowly, waiting. I can't let this life, your life, the dangers, disrupt Nala. Or me. Or my peace. I've worked too hard to create a life where I control my world. And being with you, romantic, intimate, whatever it is, it's too risky. His expression faltered for the first time ever so slightly. Pain flashed in his dark eyes. But he didn't interrupt. He waited. So, I'm ending it, she continued. The romantic part, the emotional part, We can't. It's too dangerous. For me. For Nala. He exhaled slowly, leaning back. The tension in his body was still there, but he controlled it. Slowly, he nodded. Understood, he said quietly. I can't. Won't argue with that. I respect your decision. But his voice dropped lower, softer, vulnerable. I won't stop wanting you. Jennifer's chest tightened. She hated the fire he carried in those words, hated the magnetism, hated that she had felt it all along. I know, she whispered, but that's not enough. Not for me. Not for Nala. He reached out, gently taking her hand. The touch was calm, patient, protective. Then we make different rules, he said softly. Boundaries. No complications. No threats to your life. No chaos. Just a fire when we choose. That's it. Jennifer's heart raced. She felt the pull, the temptation, the heat, but she also felt the clarity. Her daughter, her independence, her peace, that was non-negotiable. Fine, she said firmly, voice steady. We keep it simple. Fire when we want it. Nothing else. Nothing more. He smiled faintly, a mix of relief and desire. I can do that, he whispered. Over the next few days, the estate murmurs continued. Online comments, whispers among neighbors, sly looks from strangers. But Jennifer, firm and resolute, kept her peace. She didn't respond. She didn't retaliate. She focused on Nala, her work, and her life. Jean Huan, meanwhile, ensured that the threats never reached her again. Security tightened. Rumors were quashed. Anyone foolish enough to interfere learned quickly that messing with Jennifer meant dealing with him. Yet, every night when the villa was quiet, when Nala slept, Jennifer felt his presence. A text, a message, a knock at the door. And in those moments, the fire between them reignited, brief and intense, but controlled. The night air in the estate was cool, crisp, and electric. The city glittered far below, but inside Jennifer's villa, a different storm raged. One neither rain nor wind could match. Jean Huan was there, as he always was these days. Calm, controlled, dangerous, yet undeniably magnetic. He didn't enter with ego or demands or threats. Not tonight. He simply stood near the doorway, observing her with those dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Her strength, her independence, her walls, and the fire she tried so hard to hide. Jennifer noticed him immediately. She was tired from the day, from the whispers, the rumors, the subtle pressure from society, and yet her chest tightened at the sight of him. Welcome, she said firmly, voice steady. Nala was asleep in the next room, and for once, Jennifer allowed herself to focus entirely on the man in front of her. He obeyed, taking a seat across from her, posture relaxed, yet every movement deliberate, charged with tension. I've been thinking, Jennifer began, fingers nervously fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, about us, about everything we agreed on, about the fire we have. He nodded slowly, waiting, patient. That was one of the things that made him so dangerous and yet so intoxicating. I don't think if we should really continue. I've worked too hard to build my life, she said, eyes fixed on the floor. I need stability. I need control. And you're a storm I can't contain. He let her words hang in the air. His jaw tightened, but his expression softened. I know, he said quietly, and I won't interfere, not unless you allow it. But he leaned forward, voice dropping to a low, velvety whisper. I can't stop wanting you, and I won't stop protecting what matters to you. Jennifer's pulse raced. She hated how much she wanted him, how much heat his presence created. She hated how easy it was for him to disarm her, even when she had built walls around her. Her heart. I know, she whispered, but that's not enough. Not for Nala, not for me, not for my peace. He reached across, brushing her hand lightly. The touch was gentle, tender, protective. Then we can be meeting once in a while. Her breath hitched. The temptation, the pull, was almost unbearable. But she nodded, firm, resolute. Fine, she said. No complications. No drama. Just fun. He smiled faintly, a dangerous mix of desire and relief. "I can live with that," he whispered. The night deepened. The villa was quiet except for the subtle hum of the city below. Jean Huan moved closer, careful, patient, respecting the boundaries she had set. Their first touch that night was electric. A brush of fingers, a lean of a shoulder, the faint pressure of his body near hers. No words, just tension, anticipation, and fire simmering beneath the surface. "You're still dangerous," Jennifer whispered, voice low, almost breathless. "And you're untouchable," he replied, eyes darkening. "That's what makes it exciting." She tried to resist, but her body betrayed her. She leaned in, letting herself feel, just for a moment. Their lips met, slow, deliberate, and consuming. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't messy. It was controlled chaos. Passion restrained by respect. Desire tethered by boundaries. Hands traced, hearts raced, breaths mingled. The fire between them erupted in stolen touches, whispered words, and longing glances. Each moment was intense, yet carefully navigated. Jennifer reminded him softly, firmly, of the rules. Nala, peace, boundaries. He nodded, lips brushing hers. "Always," he whispered. "I won't break that." Hours passed. The candlelight flickered across the room, casting shadows on their entwined bodies. Fire blazed between them, passionate and raw, but never threatening the life she had built. She let herself enjoy it. Just the fire, just the heat, just him. No promises, no obligations, just controlled mutual desire. And in those hours, Jennifer felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Alive, free, desired, powerful. Jean Huan, for all his fear of losing her, respected every boundary, every hesitation, every rule she set. And that made her crave him even more. Every touch was consensual. Every kiss was intentional. Every whisper carried years of longing and tension. By dawn, they were both exhausted, bodies and hearts racing. They sat together, silent, catching their breath, watching the first light creep across Daehan Hills. Jean Huan looked at her, dark eyes softening, voice low, reverent. "I know this isn't forever, but for this, for us, I'm yours, only yours, when you want it." Jennifer smiled faintly, a mix of exhaustion, desire, and satisfaction. "I don't need a husband, Jean Huan. Just someone who knows how to touch me right and leave before sunrise." He chuckled softly, leaning down to press a tender kiss to her temple. "I can do that," he whispered, and in that moment it was perfect, imperfectly perfect. No lovers, only fire, only desire, only respect, only boundaries. Jennifer had her peace, her independence, her daughter. Jean Huan had the woman he had never stopped wanting. Under her rules, on her terms, with the fire they both craved. And for now, that was enough.
Hello besties, in this sweet story we learned that love can be intense and tempting, but independence and boundaries are key. Besties, protecting what you cherish are more important than giving in to pressure or past attachments. Thank you so much for watching. Can you like, subscribe and share?